Hello. How is everybody doing today? Hello. And it's good to see everybody. This is me, Dr. Davis, Pastor D, also known as Tony, coming back at you tonight. I haven't been around in a couple of weeks. We had run on the road. We were on the road putting some things together. Really, last month we were dealing with domestic violence and all the issues that go along with domestic violence. And it was my intention to keep things rolling, not only smoothly but continuously. Sometimes you get in a situation where, you know, listen, all of us have issues and things that we're going through, and for me, dealing with that has caused a lot of times how I approach things and how often I approach things. For one, I've had several back surgeries, so I'm in pain all the time. And I don't say that as an excuse, I just say that as a reality. And I also say it as a point of contention in the sense that all of us need to understand that we're all dealing with something. And so, like I said, I hadn't been with anybody, been on here live since we talked about domestic violence. And then we got a great response to it. And I'm so glad, because I'm on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook Live. And it is my purpose and my hope that, I can bring you a message that's unlike any message that's out there. Not that I have to see myself as being any different than anybody, but I am. I'm me. And in being me, after 20 years of ministry and working in corporate America, dealing with different things, pharmaceutical, federal agent, dealing with law enforcement, you get all the stuff that's compounded in your head. And if you have a heart for people like I do, then you're constantly trying to do the best that you can to reach people, especially I have a great anointing to deal with women's issues. That's why I dealt with domestic violence. And one thing that I didn't do was I didn't get an opportunity to address men when it came to domestic violence. And I don't want to spend much time on it tonight because I want to really get together, and I'm putting a whole segment together for men. And ladies, you can understand, some of you have men that have been involved in or participating in domestic violence. And this, like I told you, and I showed you before, it's about power and control. But only not as that is not only is it just power control, but it's also has something to do with what's going on internal. Men get jealous a lot of times, and when we think of our spouses or our mates, we think about the things that we do. Remember, we think as men. We don't think as women. We sometimes can be very emotionally detached because we're concrete thinkers, and we're supposed to be people who go out and conquer, take over things. So you have to have your emotions detached from that a lot of times. But when it comes to our mates, sometimes, and this is not an issue for me now, but I can attest that it has been in the past, was early in my marriage. I got over 25 years in marriage now. So a lot of things that I talk about, I've been through. I'm not just spouting off stuff. These are things that I've been through. But men have a habit of believing that, your significant other, your mate, is doing things like you might do them. Like if they're not with you, then they must be with somebody else. And it took dealing and talking to numerous women over the years to realize that, that's not the case. And we have to teach a lot of men what the reality is of the fact that, where we think or they think, I'm a man too. Whereas men think, well, you must be doing this or you must be doing it. That's only because that's how we foresee things. That's how we process things. That if you're not with me, you're with someone else. We don't have the in-between area where we say, you could just be taking care of yourself. You could just be with your girlfriends. You could just be not being with anybody. We have to assume, no, if you're not with me, then you must be with someone else. So anyway, those are things that I want to deal with men coming up, but it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot more than this. But tonight, we're in, next week is Thanksgiving, and people are going to be traveling this week and going home or going to see the in-laws or just whatever you're going to be doing. It's a traveling time, but it's also Thanksgiving is a time for family. We can get together and just sit back and chill and relax and have a good time. But in as much as we have some place to go and people that we do it, we must always remember those that don't have that type of connection. These holiday seasons are also a time of high suicide and depression because many people are alone. They don't have anybody and they're not with anybody. But we happen to, as people, sometimes just go along with our lives, not thinking about those people that have other issues and things that they're going through. And we've got to change that. Listen, we just got through an election. I'm so glad that there's no more commercials on TV. I'm so glad all them daggone signs are picked up. And whatever comes in the next Congress and next Senate or whatever, it affects, but it doesn't affect our lives. Policy-wise, it does. And so we have to be very careful and we have to continue to push. And I would continue to say, all of you all to get out there in Georgia and vote and bring some sanity to the Senate, if you catch my drift. But without getting into that aspect, what I wanted to deal with tonight is this whole idea that we need at this point in time, as you end this year is sped by. We're about to jump into 2023. And for the most of us, after the pandemic and getting back out there and getting back to some semblance of life and work, we are now at a point where we got to reassess things. We need to examine ourselves and really see where we're at. And I'm coming up, I'm putting together a product that's really going to help us daily to deal and to really get in touch with who we are now. Everybody's into technology and everybody wants to do this and on their cell phones and all that, iPads and this and that. But I'm developing something that's concrete paper because sometimes I believe in order to deal with the stuff that goes on in your mind, you've got to be in a position to where you can get it out of your head. You've got to be able to get things out of your head and away from you so that you can look at it and see it. Because otherwise, your mind, or maybe it's just mine, has a habit of starting to replay things and to put things in its own perspective that don't really line up with where I want to go or what I want to do in life. And you have to get all that, dump all that trash out. Every week we take the trash. We don't keep the trash in our house. We put it in the bin, and then we put the bin at the curb, and this truck comes by and it takes the trash. Well, sometimes we need to do a dump like that too. We need to get stuff out of our heads. Some of you this year, you've dealt with medical issues, you've dealt with employment issues. We've all dealt with inflation and high gas price issues. But you got relationship issues. Some of you may go through a divorce, a separation. You may have dealt with a death. As a pastor, I recently, some young ladies, like spiritual daughters from my wife and I, who lost their mother less than a month ago. We did their homegoing. I did their homegoing for them. And it's hard because, our parents are here for a season and they do the best they can to provide us with the knowledge and information that we need. But then they're gone. And we have to deal with that pain. And if we're not able to process that pain effectively, that pain will eat at you, especially if there are unresolved issues or things that you have not dealt with them. So I'd advise everybody as a period of reflection now that, use the rest of this year, not only to continue to work and do things. Number one, don't overspend on these holidays. Holidays are about love and joy and peace. All this money and buying all this stuff. I'm so glad I'm a grandpa now and not a parent where I got to be expected to buy. You have to reduce the expectations. And we need to get back, especially people of color, we need to get back to understanding that as they, and on the other side, attempt to try to destroy the history that has brought us to this point, we need to bring it back by sitting down and buying things that can feel this thing up here, feel this mind. Everybody wants to do this, but this artificial intelligence, it's not going to take us any place cool. You still need to be in focus and have your mind together. So what I'd ask you to do that, but I want to give you this scripture very quick as a basis of what I'm going to talk about for probably the next 5 or 10 minutes here to get us jumping before the holiday season. It comes out of the book of Ephesians, and it's Ephesians chapter 5. And I'm looking at this. I want you to look at this with me. Therefore, be imitators of of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling aroma. We need to walk in love. I don't care what other people are doing, but I'm going to tell you this, and I've learned this over the 20 plus years of ministry that I've been. Love is the essence, the foundation, the key for everything. And although we all have different ideas and understanding of what love is, you got to get in touch with that because you can never escape who you are internally. You can put on facades. You know, you got great actors out there who can act these roles and they can cry on this. You know, I was in theater years ago and I loved it. You know, and portraying a different character was cool. I remember when we did in you know, The Wiz professionally, and I was the Tin Man. You know, Slide Some More to Me, and Death of a Salesman with actor John Beasley and his son, and a number of different other shows that I've done over the years. That's fine. But once the show is over, once the curtain call comes, you've got to look at yourself and deal with who you are. And you have to get inside. And there's something, the core of us, the spirit person, man in us, is developed and comes from love because the Bible tells us that God is love. And so, you know, if you don't believe in God, and I don't know what to say, but for those that are seeking some type of understanding, not religion, bump some religion, but this idea of truth and spirit and life. Jesus said, I come to give you life. If we get back to the principle and the foundations of things, we'll find that love is the only thing that keeps you going. You get in relationships because you fall in love. You get in careers because you have a passion or you have a love for that. You buy clothes or objects or things because you love them. These are connections that you have with something. And that connection is vital to our survivability. It's in essence a necessity in order to survive. People that, you know, they say when a child is born, if it doesn't have the love of a parent or somebody there, they say that it fails to thrive. And children can die for failure to thrive. And sometimes I believe we as adults have died or dying because we have not thriven or we're not thriving. We're not into something. Everybody gets into people, who somebody is, or who somebody got, or what somebody has. If you learn, and hear me, if you learn to love just you, flaws in all, because you know what? There's no perfect people. So your flaws, wear them. If there's things that you can correct, well, go ahead and correct. But for the most part, we all have issues and flaws that we have within us and we carry with us. Nobody's perfect. I don't care, from Elon Musk to whomever, Rudy Poot Toot Toot. Everybody got some type of problem or an issue. And I would stand up next to anybody. They may have some dollars, but they don't have what I got. They don't have that ability to internalize and to use what God has given me to become something or to do something. They can stand behind their money, their bodyguards, or whatever. But you know, in the final analysis, when you stand in the mirror and you look, you ain't looking at nobody but yourself. You can lie to yourself, you good. But we've got to understand that there's more to us. It's deeper than what people have shown. It's deeper than that. And it's about this essence of love, this ability to connect, to have that inner peace inside. It's whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a job, whether it's just with yourself. See, it's impossible for you to love somebody else if you don't love yourself. If you don't love who you are, how are you going to love anyone else? Some people go through multiple relationships looking for love, multiple jobs looking for love, multiple purchases, this and that, looking for love, only to find that it's not in things, it's in self. Self preservation is about understanding the love. And the Bible teaches, as I just read, he says, and walk in love as Christ also loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God. When somebody gives their life to say, I'm going to die for all mankind because I want you to receive what really comes. Man, that says a whole lot about who we are and what we are. That's what Christ is. He gave himself, and we're so, man, this world and the way these people have done these things, and they've got us to the point where we don't want to give nothing to nobody. We don't trust nobody. We can't do nothing. Social media is a crutch. It's killing our kids. It's got people all messed up. Now they got robots to do stuff for people. Listen, I don't want to be around human beings. Boss me some robots. They may do some things, but I want to be around people. We got kids, they can't even talk now. All they do is you got to look at somebody. We were taught when we were young men, you stand up and you look straight ahead and you look at the person that is addressing you or that you're addressing. You don't hold your head down. That's that old slave mentality. I got news for Satan and everybody else out there. We ain't slaves no more to any man or to anything. We are the poema, the workmanship of God. And we have to stand for what's right and just. And so I'm telling you, before you get to Thanksgiving, you break bread and you eat them nasty chitlins and you have a good time and people are sitting around laughing and playing spades and bid this, dominoes and checkers and whatever you want to do, or you got your VR on and you're doing all your stuff. Check with yourself before you go somewhere. You know, we're gonna pack bags and we're gonna travel, but pack this bag. Make sure this bag is sufficient, that it's right, that it's where it needs to be. Because in the final analysis, if no matter where you go, if you're not happy with you, you can't make anybody else happy. I look on social media and I go through some time, people talking about sex. Sex is a big topic. I guess it's always going to be a big topic. You know, people talking about how much they got and how good they are, what kind of man they want, and all that. That has nothing to do. Sex is an activity. But you are an embodiment of life that you can express through sex, but you're more than that. And so we want people to understand. I want you to understand. You got to walk in love. You got to love yourself. And let me tell you this too. I don't care how many times you've made a mistake. If you're still breathing, you still have an opportunity, not necessarily to correct your past mistakes, but to make yourself better. Get some wisdom, gain some knowledge, pull back from the crowd, slow down your walk a little bit and decide, hey, this is what I want to do. I'm going to spend some time really falling in love with me. The best present you can give yourself is yourself. You got to be happy with you. Even if you're in a relationship, a marriage, or some type of relationship, you can't give your mate or your spouse any more than you're able to give yourself. You are it, and they are it with you. You can't have an expectation for them any more than you have an expectation for yourselves. Now, this is a good lesson for a lot of married folk, especially the young men. You're looking at your mate and you want to, they need to do this, and they need to do this, and they need to do this. And I wish that they, what about just do what you do? And look, at the end of the day, if the two bump heads, maybe it was the wrong decision. But you can't make somebody be who you want to be. And the last thing that you'd want to do is to have a mate that you tell to do and they do everything you tell them to do, because that takes away the genuine nature of who they are, their who-ness. You've made them become what you want them to be, but you stripped them of their who-ness. We got to get back into, God created us as individuals. We all bring something else to the table. And in my leadership training, I'm developing a program where now employers can begin to look, and instead of just hiring people based upon qualifications, they also need to start looking at personalities, looking at building teams of people that have a tendency to want to supplement and help each other, as opposed to those that are working antagonistically against each other because they're trying to buck somebody to get promotion. Because in the final analysis, the company loses. The company loses because we're not dealing with production or productivity. We're dealing with personalities. And I don't care how smart you are, how much book knowledge that you have. If you can't utilize this body to facilitate a conversation or to express a message that others will understand, then there's something wrong inherently with who you are. So, hey, This is the type of thing that I wanted. And it was a struggle to come back tonight because, let's be honest. When you're dealing and going through stuff, and I'm included and not excluded, you find reasons. No, not today, maybe tomorrow. Not today, maybe tomorrow. But I made a promise. And my promise was to God that I'm going to do whatever He called me to do. And so I could sit back and say, well, I'm in pain. I'm not feeling well. I don't want to do this. But then I realized I have an obligation to fulfill that which God gave me. And the reason that I really say that is this. How many days do you got left? How many days on this earth do you have left? It doesn't matter whether you're young or old. How many days do you have? You don't know, do you? And neither do I. And we need to get back to the place where we're living each day as though it's last. Having done so many funerals over the years, when the curtain finally drops on a person's life, the rest of us begin to look and say, well, hey, man, what about me? And before it's too late, and before you leave the house, not knowing whether or not you're coming back home that night or that day, give some thanks, check in, be blessed, talk, love those people that you have the ability to love. It says, therefore, be imitators of God. The Bible said God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. People ain't giving up nothing for nothing. So we learn to love. We'll find that when we connect into the same thing that God did, that our life now suddenly begins to take meaning. We find that we do have something to offer. Whether it's a smile to someone that you would ordinarily, because you're thinking about something, you let people back. How many people do you smile? How many people do you acknowledge and talk to? If you go to the grocery store, instead of pushing your cart like you in a mad hurry, you ever stop and conversate with somebody or just compliment or just say something about the fruit or whatever? If you're in your job, in an elevator somewhere, in a hospital, wherever you are, if you're in your car, you ever think just to be nice? I've had to overcome road rage, getting mad at people that cut me off and do stuff, but I sit back, you know what? I'm not going to let somebody come into my world and mess up my type of thing. You got to do and be better. We all got to be better. We all have to make sure that we're living life to the fullest, because life isn't promised, folks. Mm-mm. It's not promised. And for those that are seeking and desiring to go to heaven, there's some things we need to look at the Father and say, look, forgive me. I've made some mistakes. I've sinned. Forgive me for my sins and my trespasses. Because I got news. I don't care who you are. You can say, well, Pastor, I'm a billionaire, millionaire. What's that got to do? You're still gonna die. You can't write a check to make cancer go away. You can't write a check to make world hunger go away. You could try on the world hunger tip. You could try on the cancer tip, but it ain't gonna happen. Your money means nothing. It may mean you get good medical care, but your body is going to give to you what you gave to it. And I have a sense that once we begin to pull back from all this crazy noise, take a little time just to love ourselves and appreciate who we are, that life goes a lot further. Now, the best thing that you all could do is this, because I'm going to close with this. If this is if what I'm saying is reaching somewhere, it's hitting somewhere, it's penetrating, then like it, share it, share somebody, give me some encouragement to come back and to do something, and let's make this thing really happen. Let's get away from religion. Let's get away from all these denominational structures. Let's get away from all this hypocrisy. Let's get away from all this money hungry and title hungry thing that goes around in ministry. And let's get to the true essence of what it is, just talking to one another and being straight up with one another. And me sharing the wisdom that I've gained over the years. I'm 60 years old. I can do nothing now but to give the wisdom that I got, because I've gone and I've made the numerous mistakes. And it's up to you to take it. It's up to you to say, hey, I can skip past this. I'm not going to listen. Or it's up to you to say, you know what, you're right. And begin to examine yourself, because all I want to happiness for you to become the best you that you could be. And if you do that, it doesn't benefit me. Well, it could in the fact that humanity is a better place, but it could help those that are in your sphere of or circle of influence, the friends that you have, the jobs that you have, the places that you have. You ever thought that you could be the difference between somebody deciding to die and not simply because you take the time to acknowledge them? Before you look for somebody to do something for you, why don't you do something for somebody else without it costing them anything? Make the choice to be about something as opposed to taking on or expecting everything. It's not about you and it's not about me. It's about him and it's about the love that we share while we're down here. Listen, I'm Pastor D, otherwise known as Tony. This has been Speaking Excellence, and God is a good God. So I pray this before we go. I pray in the name of the Father that all of you have a safe and bountiful Thanksgiving week. I pray that the Father shares with you the things that I've said so that I'm not just up here sounding like a brass cymbal, but I'm servant of His, just doing and facilitating what He asked me to do. I pray your health and strength for all those that are sick and shut in or those that are going through stuff. I pray the restoration of relationships that are on the brink of destruction because both of you are so too proud to suck it up and realize that maybe you really do love each other. And I pray for you who are seeking to fight this inflation and make it through. I pray that supernatural resources or dreams or things come your way so that you can feed your family, feed yourself, and get where you need to go. And then I pray for each of us that we find that peace and joy that we so need. We only got one life, folks. I ain't no cat. I ain't gonna meow. No, we ain't got 9 lives. We got one. And it's about time that we live it to the fullest. So I want y'all to have a wonderful week coming up. And you know what? I might be back tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to visit our daughter with my wife up somewhere. And want nobody following me. But I'll still be back on. I'm gonna come on and holler at y'all maybe around before or after Turkey Day. And I don't need no bird anyway, but enjoy. This has been me, and I hope you be a good you. Take care, and God bless. Well, all right.